Welcome back from the ad break. We will continue with the impact of the recent legislation on businesses. Now we're going to be focusing on the Labor Relations Act, which is also known as the LRA. It says here, this act was introduced to promote simple procedures for the resolution of labor disputes in the workplace. Now, you know, in the workplace, there's definitely going to be conflict in the workplace since there's an employer and employees. So now the act was introduced to promote a simple way or simple procedure to resolve any form of disputes, any form of conflict in the workplace. So should there be any conflict, and then we need to resolve it as per the Labor Relations Act. Right, so what is the purpose of the Labor Relations Act? The first purpose is to promote collective bargaining at the workplace. Well, the other word for bargaining is also negotiation. So collectively, meaning both parties needs to be there, to be involved. Not only the employer, but also employees needs to be also involved in any form of negotiation in the workplace. Right, the other purpose of the Labor Relations Act is to establish what? The Labor Court and the Labor Appeal Court. It is the purpose of the Labor Relations Act is to establish that. We're going to speak about why do we have labor courts and what do they do, the labor courts and the labor appeal courts, but they are established by the Labor Relations Act. Promotes fair labor practices between the employer and employees. So employees should not be exploited. Why? Because we've got Labor Relations Act that protects them. So according to the Labor Relations Act, it promotes fair labor practices between the employer and the employee. Don't forget Labor Relations Act, the relationship between those two parties, the employer and the employee. Right. It promotes workplace forums to accommodate employees in decision making. Remember, back in the days, you'd have only the employer who makes the final decision without consulting anybody else. So now, with the Labor Relations Act, it says now there should be workplace forums whereby employees should be accommodated in decision making. As the employer, I can't just on my own make any decision without consulting. So I need to consult. So now with the Labor Relations Act, it says it promotes these workplace forums to accommodate employees in the decision making, because whatever decision that I'm making, it affects them. So they need to be involved in the decision making. Don't forget, it promotes collective bargaining in the workplace. Right, so the purpose, we are done with the purpose. Don't forget, we said each and every legislation has got the purpose, it has the impacts, it has the ways in which to comply, it has penalties as well. So now we're going to do the impacts. Don't forget, impacts refers to what? To the positives and the negatives. Right, what are the positives of the Labor Relations Act? Now that you know the purpose, now what are the impacts or the positives of the Labor Relations Act? It protects the rights of the businesses in labor-related issues. What kind of issues are labor-related? So with labor, obviously, we're talking about employees here. So the rights of the businesses in labor-related issues are protected. We're going to speak about the rights of the employers and the rights of the employees, so they are protected. Right, and then the second impact, labor disputes or conflicts are settled quicker and are less expensive. Why? Because we are guided by the Labor Relations Act. Don't forget, Labor Relations Act is all about the relationship between the employer and the employee. So these disputes, these disagreements are settled quicker and less expensive. We don't even have, okay, we can, but we don't just, when we have disputes and then we quickly go to the courts and want to resolve those. No, we start internally, but before we can even start internally, to try and avoid that, we have that good relationship between the employer and the employees. Now, what are the negatives of this Labor Relations Act? Right, it reduces or reduced global competitiveness due to lower productivity. The second one, the cost of labor increases because of the legal strikes. Remember, we've got legal strikes and illegal strikes. So with the Labor Relations Act, it allows for the employees to go on protected strikes. As long as they're going to inform the employer that they're going to go on a strike, so they are allowed to go on a strike. So the cost of labor increases because of legal strikes. So when the employees are off on a strike, who's going to be working? No one. So productivity decreases. So the cost of labor increases. Now we're going to the ways to comply with the Labor Relations Act. Now, how can we comply? How can we do as the Act says or requires from us as a business? What must we do? Employees should not be unfairly dismissed. So before you can dismiss a person, make sure that you've got good grounds to stand on. Make sure that you followed the Labor Relations Act. Make sure that you followed all the protocols. So employees should not be unfairly dismissed. Remember, they also have rights. All right, it allow the establishment of the workplace forums. Don't discriminate. Don't say to, as an employer, say to employees, you're not allowed to be forming workplace forums. No, remember the Labor Relations Act, the purpose of it, it also allows the establishment of workplace forums so that they can be able to make decisions or be part of the decision making in the businesses. All right, employers should not ignore any collective agreement. If we have agreed, as you were consulting them in decision making, you've agreed on something, the employer and the employees, then you need to ensure that you stick to that agreement as an employer. You don't find yourself ignoring and say, no, it was just for paperwork's sake. No, you need to ensure as an employer that you don't ignore any collective agreement. If you have promised a 10% increment, you need to make sure that you give that 10% increment. Businesses must allow employees to form trade unions. It's very important. Allow them. That is ways to comply. Penalties. If we do not comply, there are penalties, punishment, meaning the employer may be forced to enter a dispute resolution process if they do not comply. Businesses will be fined if they fail to comply with the agreements reached during the dispute resolution process. So hence, they said we must not ignore any agreement that we made. If not, we'll be fined. Businesses will be fined. And sometimes fining can be in a form of what? Of money maybe. So we'll be fined money. So we need to ensure that we comply with the legislation. Right. And then now the last part of the Labor Relations Act, it's the rights according to the Labor Relations Act. And these rights are not only for the employees, but also the employer has got rights as well. So we're going to do those rights. So the employers have the right to what? The employers have the right to form the employer organizations. Remember, it's not only about employees only, but also the employer. They've got a right to form employer organizations. They have a right to form a bargaining council for collective bargaining purposes to be able to negotiate and put their issues up front. Employers have the right to lock out employees who engage in illegal strike. What is to lock out? To say, yes, it's fine, continue on a strike, but not in my premises as an employer. I can lock the gate and tell you to go strike outside the business. So I have the right to do that as the employer. The employers have the right to dismiss employees whose behavior results in misconduct, such as intimidation or violence. If the employees are being rowdy and maybe they are, what's the word? As you're going to strike, you are vandalizing the building maybe. I've got a right to dismiss those employees whose behavior results in that during the strike action. Right, and then now we're going to speak about the employees' rights. Right, employees have a right to join a trade union of their choice. So remember, we said if you want to comply, you need to allow employees to join trade unions or to form trade unions. So employees have a right to join trade union of their choice. You don't have to choose for them. Employees have the right to refer any unresolved workplace disputes to the CCMA. What is the CCMA? CCMA is a Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration. So employees have got a right to refer any of these unresolved disputes there to the CCMA, maybe being unfairly treated, maybe unfairly dismissed, then they have every right to go to the CCMA. They've got the right to refer unresolved CCMA disputes to the Labour Court on appeal. If they're not happy with what the CCMA says, and then they can take it further to the Labour Court on appeal. Right, so we are done with the Skills Development Act, we're done with the Labor Relations Act. Now we're going to focus on the Employment Equity Act. Right, what is the Employment Equity Act? The main aim of this act is to ensure equal job opportunities, don't forget, equal is a key word. Ensure that equal job opportunities are given to people regardless of their race, regardless of their color, the color of their skin, regardless of the language that they're speaking, regardless of their disability. So basically here we are referring to what? To the PDIs, the previously disadvantaged individuals. So equal job opportunities should be given to everybody regardless of that. What is the purpose of the Employment Equity Act? The Employment Equity Act allows employees who do the same work to be paid equally. So equal pay for work that is the same, like equal pay for equal job. All right, another purpose of the EEA is to eliminate discrimination on grounds of gender, race, or disability where in the workplace. We are eliminating, getting rid of discrimination. That is the whole purpose of this. To promote equal opportunity and fair treatment where in the workplace. I hope you can see that the word equal is like we keep on speaking about equal opportunities, equal pay, equal. So don't forget that. Right, so from the purpose, we're now going to move on to the impact. Remember, I did say that with all these legislations, they've got the purposes, and then now we've got the impact. You'll see from the impact, you'll speak about the penalties. Right, so the impact of the EEA to motivate employees because the workforce is more diverse. We have diverse people. Remember, we've employed people regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their language, regardless of the disability. So it says here, motivate employees because the workforce is more diverse, representative, and inclusive. We've got different people from different races, who speak different languages. It impacts positively on the BEE ratings for businesses. Then the disadvantages of that is that fines for non-compliant businesses may be expensive for the business. Remember, if a business does not comply with the legislation, and then here we are being told they will be fined. And if they're fining us, they want money, we are being fined money, and then it can be expensive for the business. So it is important that we comply so that we don't find ourselves as a business being fined. Right. Often positions, they go unfilled because there are no suitable EE candidates. Remember, who are these EE candidates? We are talking about your previously disadvantaged individuals. Who are these previously disadvantaged individuals? We are talking about the black people here. We are talking about people with disability. We are talking about women. Right, so now, what are the ways to comply with the EEA? Businesses must guard against discriminatory appointments. Don't appoint people because maybe you know them, you like them, maybe you are related to them. So you need to guard against that. Remember, what must we do? We need to look at the PDIs first. It's a priority. However, give equal opportunities to everybody, regardless of the what, regardless of the race, regardless of the language that they speak, regardless of the disability. So you need to guard against discriminatory appointments. Promote equal opportunities and fair treatment, regardless of the race, regardless of the language, regardless of disability. So equal opportunities should be given to everybody. You can't say the promotion is only for females only, or white females, or for white people only. No, it should be everybody, regardless whether you're white or non-white. But first preference should be given to what? To the previously disadvantaged individual. But equal opportunities should be given to everybody. Very, very important. Implement an employment equity plan, put it to action. Very important. That is way to comply. Right. If we don't do all those points that I just mentioned right now, you'll have to pay something. You'll be punished for that, which is penalties for non-compliance. So businesses may face heavy fines for non-compliance. And we did say that the disadvantage now, it can be costly for our business because we have to pay heavy fines. So it's a disadvantage if we don't comply. This or the business can be ordered to pay compensation and damages to the employee. Businesses may be brought before the labor court, which is it's not good for our business. Businesses may be brought before the labor court if compliance orders are not adhered to or no effort is made to reach the target. So it's not a good thing for our business if we do not comply. All right, we've come to the end of the lesson. We've covered those three legislation, or as the topic says, the impact of recent legislation on the business. I hope you've learned so much, because I've learned as well and I've enjoyed this lesson. So I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.